winter water woes. If you guys have been following along in the series, then you guys know that we moved to an off-grid location. We are staying in a trailer. We just moved here probably about a month and a half ago, and this is really our first winter here. In part one, we discovered that we had no running water, and we ran around trying to figure out where the problem was. In part two, we tried to diagnose the problem by improvising with some creative solutions. And here we are in part three now, about 12 days since we didn't have running water. And let's catch you up on what happened.
Listen to that noise. Sounds like a frozen bladder. I loosened this pipe to drain the pressure. It was at 100 psi. Now it's like 80. It's going down. I'll try and get this pressure out, get all this stuff drained. Put a T-fitting and a spigot here so I can just drain the entire system from now on whenever I want. So that sounds like a big ice cube in there. Okay, I've drained this out. I've still got 25 pounds. I'm going to take this plug out and drain the rest of it. Put all this back together, tighten everything up, and then I'm going to put a drain valve here, like a spigot. That's one way to do it. Well, I got my air tank here. It's only got 40 pounds in it, but it should be enough to test this pressure tank. Everything is drained, depressurized, and I'm pretty sure the bladder's blown because it was crackling and crinkling and making all kinds of noise while it was draining. And I think the bladder broke and water got in the top and the bottom, and I put a pressure gauge on it and it was 0. So I'm going to try and put some air in it, and if air comes out to this open fitting, then we know the bladder's blown. Can you tell if there's air coming down there? You plug the one in front too.
I feel a little dry. It feels cold. Yep. Does that answer your question?
Yep. She's blown. Need a new pressure tank. Good times. I'm not sure why there's no shelter over this thing to begin with. That was one of the first things I noticed when we bought this place. I just didn't have a chance to get it done before the cold bomb hit. So
alright, so it looks like a new pressure tank is in our future. What had happened was the water inside of the pressure tank froze and it expanded and broke the bladder that is sitting on top. So we will need to go and buy a whole new pressure tank. Now I know a lot of you guys had asked why there wasn't a shelter on this pressure tank to begin with, and we don't know, other than the fact that the previous owners had operated here for the last several years with no issues whatsoever. It was an exceptionally cold year, so you know, sometimes things just happen. So what we will be doing is getting a new pressure tank. We will be putting a shelter over it. We will be insulating it. I don't think we're going to be able to put a light down here just because we are off grid. I don't know how we would get that to work without completely draining our already tapped system or putting a whole new battery system down here. But for right now, this should work, and that's what we're going to do.
Still works, but it's pretty beat up. Might as well get a whole new setup. It's full of slush and ice. Have to come back down with the truck to get that. All this insulation was frozen solid. It was like a big ice cube. It used to be a turtle. Nothing but a shell. Hello, cow.
You're gonna get hit, little cow.
Alright, I spent about $200 to replace all this mess. I'm going to reuse my brass T-fitting, and this is the old switch, or the old pressure switch, which as I said, it still works, but it's pretty beat up, so I got another one. So here's the new one. This is a 40-60. Turns on at 40 pounds, turns off at 60. And the tank is pre-charged to 38 pounds. We checked it at the store, so everything should be plug and play with this deal. That looks much better. Same exact placement. Alright, so we got our switch, we got a little spigot, so now I can drain it, drain the whole system. Got a new pressure gauge. So the old pressure gauge obviously is shot because this should be at 0, there's no pressure. And it's stuck at like 16, so that's junk. So here's the new one, and that's the way it should be. And a little 1/4-inch brass fitting here. I'm going to have this spray out that way. Okay, it's pretty good to me. The pressure gauge. You only want to hand tighten this because you'll bust it right off the fitting, so when I get down there I can tighten that square brass fitting part. Oh, it's got a plug in it. They plugged it so like when they paint it, paint doesn't get in the hole. Alright. Everything is hooked up. New switch, spigot, pressure gauge. Okay, start the generator.
Copy that. You ready for the pump yet? Copy. It's on.
Pressure switch just kicked off. The tank is full. Open the faucet slowly.
It's open.
It's open.
I just told you, I just turned it on a little bit.
Is it water?
No.
No water.
Negative.
I don't know whether there's still something blocking it or it's froze or what. It should be dropping pressure as it's driving it up the hill and it's not.
All right, it's about day 8 or 9 without running water. I can't remember which, 8 or 9. And we put in a new pressure tank late last night. We turned the pump on. The tank filled up appropriately, but when we turned on the faucet, nothing came out. So that means one of two things. Either there is a blockage between the pressure tank and up here, another ice blockage, or we have a broken pipe. Now it has been let's see, it got up to like 60 degrees yesterday. I think it's supposed to be in the high 40s today. We have not had freezing temperatures for 3 days, so things should be thawing out. There was quite a bit of insulation under the house with the pipes, so it is possible that it's just taking time for, if anything did freeze under there, it's possible that it's just taking time to thaw out. We're just going to have to diagnose today and see.
Okay, this is where the water main is. It comes up out of the ground from down the hill, right behind this panel. I know it's got a bunch of insulation around it. 63 degrees yesterday and still no water. The ground is a lot softer than it was when it was frozen. So I'm gonna try and get in here, see if this pipe might be still frozen. If not sure where the problem is because it's pretty much hit everywhere else. So see what we can see. Alright, let's see what we got here. It's 39. This should not be frozen. Unless it's frozen down in the ground, but that should not be frozen.
I think the chickens are imitating you. They saw you over here scratching and they thought you were into something good.
Nothing good over here.
Well, it's afternoon. I've been working on the water all morning. There's no water yet. Got a ton of dirty dishes to do, but at least there's pie.
I'm gonna turn on the pump and see if water comes out.
Alright, so what he did was he disconnected the pipe, the main water line here, and we turned the pump on to see if water would pump out on the ground, and no water's coming up. So that means there has to be a blockage between the pressure tank and up here. So I just had him on the walkie and he said he's going to try and disconnect down there and snake the line. That'll be our next step here.
Okay, this is a gas check valve I got. It allows you to hook a brass fixture to like a plumbing fixture, and then it has an air fill. I'm going to try and blow air down through the plumbing, not too much, but just try and force whatever might be in there out through the bottom without blowing a pipe or doing something crazy. Everything's closed, right?
I think so.
Now we're going to try and blow air down the main with the valve open down at the tank and see if we can get her cleared out. I am convinced there's something stuck in this line, and I think it's probably a piece of that ruptured bladder from the old tank. And if we can't get it blown out, we got a big problem. It turned out that there was a junction in the water line that we knew of, that we found out about. So we figured it might be there, that there was this blockage. And so we had to find where the water line was to try and dig it up and see if we could figure that out.
So I randomly started just trenching across the yard, and I realized after 3/4 of a day of this, and digging 18 inches deep, because that's how deep the pipes was buried, which is below our frost line, that this was kind of pointless and not really working. So the previous owners had suggested water dowsing. Now, if you guys haven't heard this before, it also goes by the name of water witching or doodle bugging. And basically it's where you use 2 divining rods, and when they cross, that marks the spot where there is water or whatever you are looking for. We had nothing to lose. So Jeremy had fashioned 2 rods out of ladder wire, and sure enough, we walked across the yard and it crossed for both of us.
Like, we had never tried it before. I always thought it was voodoo, and so I put together those divining rods, and it worked for me, and I couldn't believe it, so I gave them to her, and she did it
across in the same spot.
Exact same spot.
Up here in Appalachia, when you're trying to find water, the one way that most people do it up here is water witching. I read a lot about water witching. It's in all of the old school, like the Reader's Digest Back to Basics books. It's in the Foxfire books. I've never tried it myself. I just practiced it here for the first time, and it worked. Well, let me just say that it crossed. We haven't dug down yet. So what we're looking for is the water line that's coming out of the house. I've been trying to dig trenches, trying to find it. I'm not having any luck. We called up the previous owner of the property, and they're like, have you tried using dowsing rods? And so Jeremy put these together with ladder wire, and I'm going to show you just what it did, and then we're going to start digging there, and we're going to see if this works. Okay? Arms in at your sides. Hold the wires out, and you kind of have just kind of relax, but I'm holding it pretty good, pretty secure, and I'm going to show you what happened. Watch. The rods are crossing. I am not doing this. You see that?
This is where we dig. I can totally confirm this because I just did it too. I had never tried it before in my life. I always thought it was voodoo, but holy crap, it works. So we're going to find this water line.
Right there is where we marked it. That's where the rods cross for both of us. And right there, you can see it, is the water line. And that's the power right there. Water, dowsing rods crossed. That's like
2 feet, 1 foot.
1 foot. And it's really cool. I read about it a lot in some of the older books, such as the Foxfire books and the Back to Basics Reader's Digest books, but never tried it. Definitely will be keeping our divining rods for any future needs.
Yep. So we spent an entire day digging in super rock hard clay. We did find the line. We found the power line that runs the pump, but then we couldn't figure out which direction to go to find this junction. And kind of at our wits' end, I called up a neighbor who suggested we run some fence wire down and try and snake it out. And he had a long length, so that's what we did. He came over and we just jammed this wire down through the pipe and hit a blockage. We couldn't really get through it, so we couldn't determine at that point what was blocking it, but we knew that there was a blockage. And so the day after, I just jammed it down there some more, and I thought we got through it. We tried pouring a little bit of salt water down the pipe, and
there was an airlock, so the water wouldn't go down.
Yeah, it was kind of airlocked. So the final day, after having replaced the entire pressure tank assembly, I added a T-fitting to the inlet up here at the house, and we turned on the tank and ended up just blowing a bunch of sludge out and got the water up the hill, and got everything connected. Thought we were all good to go. We had cold water blowing in and coming in through all the fixtures, and then it was time to test the hot water. No go.
Turns out that we froze the hot water tank.
The hot water tank froze, and the copper element, heat exchange elements inside had burst. So luckily, the same neighbor had a torch and some solder, some of the good old school lead solder, and we were able to patch 2 splits in the copper piping inside the water heater, and so we had pressure there. Turned it on, water tank no longer leaked, but we could hear water running from somewhere and the faucets were not on, which made me think, well, we have a busted pipe underneath the trailer.
Yeah, plus we had really low pressure in our kitchen sink.
Yeah, low pressure. So got under the trailer, turned out that there was a union fitting in one of the hot water supply lines to the kitchen sink that had popped apart. It didn't burst, it just wasn't really glued, so it had popped apart. Quick shark bite connection fitter.
Remember our video from broken pipes, and we went and got shark bites and we picked up an extra one?
This couple extra came in handy. That shark bite fitting, connected it, fixed it, turned it on, and now we have done, what, 3 or 4 loads of laundry, showers. Like, makes you really appreciate running water after having not had it for 10, 11 days.
I don't know if you guys follow along on some of our posts. In between our videos, we try to just communicate with you guys, let you know what's going on our YouTube channel. So under the community setting, you'll see sometimes I post little polls and stuff. Those of you guys that answered the poll when I asked the question, what do you think went wrong with not having running water? And some of you guys clicked all of the above. It was all of the above. Everything.
All of the above. Every
Murphy's
possible
Law.
thing that could have gone wrong went wrong, that I can think of. And so far we're okay. But today, luckily, the good thing was we had 2 days of really good weather, of 63 degrees and then 50 some degrees.
Now we're back down to freezing.
Yeah, so yesterday we got it fixed. Today it's back down to below freezing, and tonight it's going to get into the mid-teens. And so the only thing I have left to do is to really get this stuff insulated and buttoned up and hopefully prevent this from happening again. My challenge is down at the pressure tank, I don't have a way to operate like a heat lamp or heat tape or something like that unless the generator's running. So we're going to try and just really insulate it as best we can without building an entire Fort Knox bunker around it, and just hope for the best.
All right, so that wraps up Winter Water Woes. Hopefully that's the end of our drama. I'm sure there'll be other drama though, and we'll definitely be sure to take you guys along as we try and solve problems here and just figure out off-grid life. A lot of you guys on our Instagram page had inquired about the water dowsing or the water witching. I'm going to leave a link down below to a free PDF that you can download if you are interested in learning a little bit more about that. We are completely backlogged on videos, but we are due for a video that is our top 5 homesteading goals. Liz Zorb had asked us to do this video, and a couple other people had called us out to do this video, and we are going to do it. It's just
been a little busy.
Been a little busy, but we will have that video coming out probably next. And then we will be doing a giveaway. I'm actually going to visit my friend Amy's farm. I mentioned her in the off-grid water bucket bath, bathing, and laundry video. She makes her own soaps and lotions and salves. We're gonna go visit her farm, and she's going to be doing a giveaway. So stay tuned for that video. That's gonna be coming out soon. And yeah, thanks for hanging along with us, guys. Appreciate it.
Take it easy.